Okay, before we get going, I'm going to say a few words about something that's going to come up sooner or later when you get into dance, tango, or any other type of dance, which is shoes. Shoes you're going to find are part of your basic kit, and so they're going to have certain qualities. You're going to have ones which are good for dancing. You'll need something which is usually fairly lightweight, close-fitting. It fits well, so it's not going to slop around. You'll also want some kind of support in the arch. If you think of a steel plate inside is what they usually have, and that keeps it from rocking too much or folding too much, and so your ankle is not going to go all over the place. It's especially important for ladies' shoes. You need the arch support so that it's not going to flop the heel over and damage you. But you will need some shoes. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of shoes around, some options you have. The first option, which a lot of people actually go for, is just actual dance shoes. They're usually used for ballroom dance. They have a special kind of sole. It looks like suede, but it's not suede. It's actually called naga hide. It's more rugged, but it still has that kind of rough texture on the surface. If you think of a piece of split leather that's been pulled apart, and so you've got that real shaggy side to it, it's going to look something like that. And the idea is when you're on a smooth surface, then the sole is going to allow you to move as you need to, because in dance you're going to have to, occasionally you're going to have to slide a little bit, but quite often you're going to have to swivel. Okay, so it will let you do that, but the texture of the sole is going to drag on the surface enough that it'll slow you down and keep you from getting out of control. And so those type of shoes are available. Most of the dance studios will have them. Some regular dancers will be selling them as a side business. There are dance supply stores that have them. All sorts of options. You can even get them on eBay if you need to. But they are good on hard, smooth floors. Here I happen to have a hardwood floor. A lot of dance studios will also have hardwood floors. Sometimes they have a hard tile floor. In some event locations, they'll have a floor which is like polished concrete, which can be real slippery if you're not careful. And so ballroom shoes are pretty much an essential on that kind of surface. But that's the sort of surface that these shoes are great on. Because of that texture, it'll slow you down. Now, there are a couple of issues that can come up over time as you use those shoes, if you go that way. One is that as you use them, I told you it has a rougher surface on the sole, and it can actually get compacted over time to the point where it's not getting that dragging action as much, and it's not keeping you from getting out of control as well. And so you might have to take a moment and rough them up once in a while. The other thing that can happen is some floors are a little cleaner than others. Some floors are better taken care of than others, and so you'll occasionally get a floor which has, say, a bit extra wax on it that wasn't buffed off properly, or you can get a floor which is dirty or grimy or dusty or something like that. It'll all collect on the soles of your shoes and it actually cake on. It's pretty solid, and so you're going to need help taking those off. So for those purposes, you'll hear sometimes people saying you can use just rough sandpaper, and yeah, maybe you can, but I've never had any real luck with it. So you're better off with an actual ballroom shoe brush, something like this. This is the sort of thing they usually are now. It's just a little wire brush. It has relatively sharp little wire tines. They're hook-shaped, and the idea is you can use it to scratch out anything that's caked into the soles of your shoe. I'll just show you the action here is just something like that, just to give it help get all that caked on guck out. And if the sole is compacted, then it'll start loosening it up a little bit so you get that texture again. Okay, these things, I got this years ago, but most of the places that sell dance shoes will have them. You can also get them on Amazon or on eBay. They're fairly common. It is kind of small. It's designed so that it can be carried with you if you like, and so you can take it to the dance with you. If you want something bigger for at home, you can look for something else which is the same idea, but it's called a file brush or a file cleaner. The woodworking guys out there will be using a brush which is basically the same as this, except it's bigger, to clean out all the caked in pieces of sawdust and stuff like that, which is collected in their files and rasps for woodworking. Okay, so that's a bigger thing. They used to be cheaper than these things. Now they're sort of comparable, and so you can decide which way you want to go. So that's the ballroom shoes. You can also use just regular slippers. These are some leather-soled slippers. These happen to be called opera-style slippers, or you can get dance slippers, these sorts of things, from the dance suppliers. And they all work on this kind of floor. Now, the problem is in tango, we're often dancing on other types of surfaces. I've danced on concrete. I've danced on asphalt, parking lots. I've danced on plywood. I've danced on all sorts of weird stuff. And with those things, anything like a ballroom shoe is just going to grab, and it's just not going to let you move at all. And so for that, you're going to want something with a hard sole. And so you may actually want to use something like a regular street shoe. As long as it's good, well-fitting, it's got a hard leather sole. You don't want anything soft because it'll grab too much. But a hard leather sole. And you can have... Tango shoes are usually made that way. These happen to be some shoes that were made for me by a guy that has a factory in Argentina. Again, hard sole shoes. This one happens to have a French heel. It's something like a Cuban heel, but a little smaller. It's what they usually use if you're going to have a higher heel. It can be a little bit narrow, so it can take a little bit of getting used to. But those are the sorts of things that they'll have for tango. But a feature on these shoes is rubber on the heel. And there is a reason for that. And the ballroomers don't have this. And so you may have to retrofit a shoe if you're using ballroom shoes. In tango, we're doing a lot of swiveling on the balls of our feet. But if something starts getting shaky or wobbly or out of control, with that rubber on the heel, you have the option of dropping your heel on the ground and letting it stop you from skidding out of control. Okay, so that becomes kind of like a brake pad. So you want a rubber heel or some kind of a rubber plate on there. Regular street shoes usually have that. For women's shoes, this is a women's shoe. They'll usually come with a little plastic plug on here. A lot of women in Argentina will take that off and put a rubber one on, or they'll sometimes even just stick on a piece of rubber for the same purpose. It means if they start getting a little bit out of control, they can just drop the heel, and that'll stop them. Okay, so that's a quick rundown of some options for shoes. What you do not want is anything which is soft and rubbery all over. So no running shoes, no sneakers, no walking shoes. Okay, Rockports are in that sort of ballpark. Anything which is a soft sole is going to grab too much on a lot of these surfaces and can cause a lot of grief. You can start stressing stressing your ankles and your knees and all sorts of stuff. It can also scrub the floor in ways that can wreck the surface of the floor. And so it's not good for you, it's not good for the floor. So it's just plain not a good idea. And so that's a quick look at shoes and some options you have for them. And from this point, we'll get into some actual dancing.